This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov Moment. Tonight, thank you, White House Advisor Stephen Miller. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a minute out this evening to send a special thank you to White House Senior Policy Advisor Stephen Miller. This gentleman has just been conducting himself with so much grace and nobility and style and class and intelligence and wisdom. What a breath air after 8 years of torture from the Obama administration. Just to watch Stephen Miller in action with the establishment media, with these leftists in the media. I mean, he's just taken them to school with wisdom and grace and style. I don't know if you missed it, but the other day, oh, what a breath of fresh air to watch what he did with CNN's Jim Acosta. I mean, give me a break. Just how these leftists behave. They think it's their job to get into these long debates during these briefings, that they get to discipline and recriminate and discipline these people who are in the way of them building their perfect utopian planet. And people like Stephen Miller don't let them get away with it. And you should watch that if you missed it. Look at Stephen Miller just taking Jim Acosta to school, taking him to the clinic. It was beautiful to watch. And not only that, the way he called him out, because what happens with leftists, they just think that they're the humanitarians of all time, and yet that ugliness that comes out of them. And it does, sooner or later, whenever they try to camouflage what they're really trying to achieve with all this concern about social justice and equality, but then it really comes out what's really behind that leftist dream. And it was incredible because Acosta, what happened in that exchange is it came out. He thinks that only people from England or Australia or white people know how to speak English. And Stephen Miller called him out on this. It was perfect. And it's incredible, the double standards. It's incredible that Acosta still has a job after this. I mean, imagine if somebody from the conservative milieu had said something like this. I mean, this would have been front page of the New York Times and Washington Post, et cetera, et cetera. But just recently, another beautiful thing to watch, Stephen Miller takes this New York Times reporter to school and on the issue of immigration. Let's just play it.
All right, let's go to Glenn.
Two quick questions. First of all, let's have some statistics. There have been a lot of studies out there that don't show a correlation between low-skilled immigration and the loss of jobs for native workers. Cite for me, if you could, one or two studies with specific numbers that prove the correlation between those two things, because your entire policy is based on that. And secondly, I had sources that told me about a month ago that you guys have sort of elbowed infrastructure out of the way to get immigration on the legislative queue. Tell me why this is more important than infrastructure.
Well, the latter statement isn't true. I think the most recent study I would point to is the study from George Borjas that he just did about the Mariel boat lift. And he went back and re-examined and opened up the old data and talked about how it actually did reduce wages for workers who were living there at the time. And Borjas has, of course, done enormous amounts of research on this, as has the Peter Kirsanow on the U.S. Civil Rights Commission, as has Steve Camarada at the Center for Immigration Studies, and so on and so on.
Sciences, engineering, and medicine.
Right, no recent study said that as much as $300 billion a year may be lost as a result of our current immigration system in terms of folks drawing more public benefits than they're paying in. But let's also use common sense here, folks. At the end of the day, why do special interests want to bring in more low-skilled workers, and why historically...
I'm not asking for common sense. I'm asking for specific.
Well, I think it's very clear, Glenn, that you're not asking for common sense. But if I could just answer your question, I named the studies, Glenn.
Let me just finish the question.
Glenn, I named the studies. I
asked you for a statistic. Can you tell me
Glenn,
how many?
Maybe we'll make a carve-out in the bill that says the New York Times can hire all the low-skilled, less-paid workers they want from other countries, and see how you feel then about low-wage substitution. This is a reality that's happening in our country. Maybe it's time we had compassion, Glenn, for American workers. President Trump has met with American workers who've been replaced by foreign workers, and ask them how this has affected their lives. Look at I just told you.
Low-skilled jobs that Americans might otherwise have. Why?
I mean, if you look first of all, if you look at the premise, Glenn, of bringing in low-skilled labor, it's based on the idea that there's a labor shortage for lower-skilled jobs. There isn't. The number of people living in the United States in the working ages who aren't working today is at a record high. 1 in 4 Americans, or almost 1 in 4 Americans between the ages of 25 and 54, aren't even employed. For African American workers, their labor force participation rate who don't have a high school diploma, I guess African American males without a high school diploma, has plummeted some 40 percentage points since the mass wave of unskilled migration began. The reality is that if you just use common sense, and yes, I will use common sense, the reason why some companies want to bring in more unskilled labor is because they know that it drives down wages and reduces labor costs. Our question as a government is, to whom is our duty? Our duty is to U.S. citizens and U.S. workers to promote rising wages for them. If low-skilled immigration was an unalloyed good for the economy, then why have we been growing at 1.5% for the last 17 years at a time of unprecedented new low-wage arrivals? It's just the facts speak for themselves. At some point, we're accountable to reality.
Okay, absolutely fantastic. Double jab, right hand hook, and Stephen Miller's just knocking out these annoying, malicious, I mean, what do you want me to say? Just these leftists in the establishment media, leftist media, who think it's their responsibility, as I said, to badger and discipline and recriminate, you know, these horrible people in the way of the leftist paradise that they're trying to build. Thank you, Stephen Miller. And just reflecting very briefly what's going on here. What's going on is that for 8 years, we had a man that led this country that hated America, that still hates America, and that just had a field day with taking a sledgehammer to the foundations of America, to everything America represents. And the leftists in the media just loved it. They ate it up. And now they don't know what to do with themselves. I mean, just watch them. This New York Times reporter, just watch him. I mean, he can't even control himself. The leftists do not know what to do. They've had these 8 beautiful years for them of Obama and all the people that surrounded him that hate America, hate the American idea, and they were just, you know, they were living the dream. They're going to destroy this country. They're going to supposedly build their utopian dream, and now they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do because Trump represents the American idea. Trump loves this country. The people around him love this country, and they want to make America great again and bring back individual accountability, individualism, strengthen this country, have policies that not only strengthen this country but make the country better for Americans. And the left is just foaming at the mouth, doesn't know what to do. But how beautiful it is to have a man like Stephen Miller up there speaking with his nobility, his love of country, his integrity, his wisdom. Thank you, Stephen Miller. What an honor it is for all of us to have you up there with your grace and class and wisdom. It's just a beautiful thing. We'll see you on the next Jamie Glazov Moment. Good night.